Just ask passionate wildlifer, versatile conservation biologist and seasoned mentor, Dr. Sanjay Molur. A discreet trailblazer in conservation science, Dr. Molur specializes in risk assessment and conservation planning of wild species and has assisted in the assessment of more than 10,000 taxa in India, South Asia and around the world. With 29 years in the field, Dr. Molur is the Executive Director, Zoooutreach Organization Trust India, President CEO, Zoooutreach Organization USA, and Founder Secretary, Wildlife Information Liaison Development Society. Dr. Molur is co-chair of 5 species specialist groups, runs 2 networks for reptile and amphibian researchers in South Asia, was part of the international panel that refined the IUCN red listing process, and is also founder and chief editor of Zoo's print journal and the Journal of Threatened Taxa since 1999, India's only platinum open access monthly international peer-reviewed journal. For his years of dedicated research and in recognition of his endeavors, 2 species have been named after him. A Thomisid spider found in the southern Western Ghats, Strigoplus moluri patel in 2003, and a species of freshwater fish, Bethia Sanjay Moluri, from the northern Western Ghats in 2016. Dr. Sanjay Molur is the recipient of the Wildlife Service Award in 2020.
Am I audible? Yeah? Okay. Well, thanks a lot for that wonderful introduction. That saves me a lot of time. As it is, I wouldn't have patted my back, but being in this field for the last almost 30 years, hidden away in this wonderful city of Coimbatore, I'm sure nobody here, or many of you have not heard of Zoooutreach organization. It's a conservation organization that was set up in 1985. We do everything from species and habitat conservation. We look at nature-based solutions. We also are working on climate crisis mitigation. The organization was founded by Sally Walker, an American who came to India way back in the early 70s. She stayed on from doing yoga and Sanskrit, learning Sanskrit, to doing conservation. She set it up in Mysore Zoo in 1985 and moved to Coimbatore in 87 to help set up the Nilgiri Biosphere Nature Park, which is about 40 kilometers outside of town. And I'll encourage you, if you have the time, those of you who come from outside, to visit the park. And those of you within Coimbatore, please visit the park. It's one of our labor of love in terms of what we've achieved in the last 30 years, and you can see it there firsthand. And unfortunately, Sally is no more with us, but I have taken over the responsibility, and since 2012, I've been heading the organization. Okay. I'm not going to go into the details of what we do, but I just wanted to address this audience with what we're all here about, sustainability. We talk about sustainability, and as someone said this morning, everybody bandies around sustainability, like as though there's no tomorrow. It's a buzzword, it's used in all contexts, but nobody understands what the other means about sustainability. Why? Because we have so many definitions about it. What is sustainable? Sustainable in terms of livelihoods, sustainable in terms of making money, profits, income. There are so many different kinds of sustainable models that we work on, that we depend on. While we talk to each other, and this is what I understood, and speaking with people in other contexts, especially with working on sustainable development goals, it's something that we all take for granted. Just because we understand or we use the term sustainable, we think that we understand each other, but we are not on the same platform. So that's something that is an issue that we need to deal with. But this is, as you see, this is what most of the people, when they begin their conquest, look at. They want to be sustainable in all of these issues. However, where is sustainability taking us today? Is our environment really sustainable? Is our planet the only living planet in our solar system, as far as we know, sustainable? Where are we heading? Where are we headed? What do we do? So, I thought I'd just put this out there in terms of what we mean by sustainable development. It's a noun, obviously, by definition. It's an economic development that is conducted without depletion of natural resources. Now, without depletion of natural resources is something that we all put aside very conveniently. But sustainability actually involves that. And sustainable development in and by itself is an oxymoron, because it's a phrase where two words are combined that are exactly opposite of each other. At least in practice, development, as we know today, is not sustainable. So, where are we? What do we do? This is a common refrain. You're a conservationist, you don't like development. You're a wildlifer, you hate industry. You're into natural things, you're an environmentalist, you're against the government, you're a terrorist, you have to be jailed. You're an anti-national. This is what we hear on a daily basis. I'm here to tell you that conservationists are not against development. Conservationists are not against anything that is happening in this world that promotes what we call better living, that removes poverty, that removes everything that is negative in this world. What we are trying to include and say is that be a bit more holistic. And it just takes a few steps to be holistic. And this I've learned over the last 30 years working in the field of wildlife conservation to say how wildlife issues, here again I'm going to give you a few examples of how wildlife can be seen as something that is beneficial to development, that is beneficial to each one of you to take into account while you're setting up your startups, while you're considering setting up startups, while you're looking at options, while you're exploring options to see how best you can incorporate wildlife into your agenda. And it's possible. I'll give you a few examples. Vultures, these birds, the raptors, are declining. They have declined by more than 95%. They're critically endangered species. In India, in South Asia, and now they're declining even in Africa. These birds are so useful, they provide such a wonderful role in our ecosystem that because of their decline, believe it or not, the number of rabies cases in the country has increased by 300% just by the decline of vultures. Why? Their role is taken over by dogs and by other animals that carry rabies. Vultures do not. They never mingle with humans. Dogs do. Whether you like dogs or not, that's a fact. So vultures play a phenomenal role in our ecosystem, and they are ecosystem providers. Oops. Something's happening. Yeah. Okay. So, I'm sure most of you have heard of this. Bees provide our agricultural needs. They provide a very strong basis for our global economies that are especially based on agriculture and even otherwise. What do you do with economies if you can't eat? Bees help us eat. bees provide us with the pollination service. And it is estimated that every bee is worth $20, if not more. So, if one were to do the math of the number of bees in a hive and the number of hives that are available, should I say more? Bats. This is something that has recently, or in the last few years, been under the gun, literally under the gun, been either fired out of existence, or there are trees chopped out of existence, or the bats literally killed. Why? Because of the fear of not only SARS-CoV, but of other diseases like Nipah and others that have come from bats. Why have we so many viruses that have origins in bats? It's very simple. It's the law of entropy. You have to have certain biodiversity for viruses and bacteria to be spread around. If you reduce any one of them, or if you reduce species, and if your species, if our species, in this case, human species is increasing in numbers, where do the bacteria and viruses go? It's a matter of survival of the fittest. It's a matter of wanting to live, and so viruses jump, and that's what they've done. We've gone into areas where bats survive, where other animals survive. We've decimated those areas, and now we expect and blame them for giving us the viruses. Okay? So these are little things that we need to understand of how we have impacted them. However, they're doing their part. Do you know that a bat, which is very commonly found throughout India and much of the world, in fact, it's called, not much of the world, much of the old world, Pipistrellus tenuis or Pipistrellus coromandra, which is a pipistrelle. You just, today, when you go out, 7 o'clock, look around at any lampposts. You will find these tiny little creatures flitting around in huge numbers sometimes, sometimes not. If it's raining, you'll not see them. But these are just 1.5 grams each. And a 1.5 gram bat eats 300 mosquitoes in 1 hour and is active for 5 to 6 hours a night. What do you say about that? What is the kind of ecosystem role it's playing? And it helps in controlling diseases. So tomorrow, if you want a bright idea of how to control diseases other than what we're doing, here's one of your solutions. Here's something to follow through. Perhaps, just look at it. If you want more information, I can provide you this. This is my topic of PhD. So I can tell you more about bats and rodents. Somebody mentioned about foot massage. If you go to Prozone Mall or any of the malls, you can get a very soothing foot massage by these guys. They also provide other wonderful services, and I'll go on. I'll come back to them later. A lot of the species that we don't even know, that we are not even concerned about, are found in riverbeds, among rocks, in seasonal pools, on rocky plateaus, in grasslands, all of which we normally think are wastelands. Wastelands, mind you, are one of the biggest carbon sequesters, what we call wastelands, because they are grasslands, because they have seasonal plants. They sequester more than 30% of the carbon. So it's not just forests. We need grasslands. If you have the idea of making entire Tamil Nadu filled with trees, think again. You know why? Because Tamil Nadu is in the plains, except for the foothills and of the Western Ghats. The rest of the state is in the plains. And plains naturally, over eons, over millennia, have had only grasslands. We don't have trees. We didn't have trees. So if you're going to plant trees and want to afforest Tamil Nadu, think twice. So these are just simple clues to understand how you can incorporate diversity, biodiversity into your business model. Go into grasses, grow shrubberies, native. Okay, so, and there are various different things that these little creatures contribute to. We've all heard of civet coffee. Yeah, whether in India, whether in Indonesia. Of course, there are some bad examples happening now in Southeast Asia because of its popularity. People are keeping civets in captivity and mistreating them, feeding them, force feeding them coffee beans to get out coffee poop. Okay, that is then sold at 10 times the market value of normal coffee. Fortunately, it's not happening in India. But the point is that civets naturally add value. Okay? And of course, who hasn't been to a protected area, to a safari? Anybody here who hasn't been to a safari or a protected area? Please do if you haven't. Because you get to see such wonderful wildlife. Not only these two creatures here, the tiger and the elephant, which are charismatic, you will find innumerable species. It is a window to what is out there and what we can enjoy. Okay? Species add to our benefit in terms of enhancing our travel. The peafowl is India's national bird, found everywhere now. Around Coimbatore, some people I know complain that they can't sleep in the nights because these birds call all the time. But hey, that's a national bird. When you see its wings spread, the feathers spread, you say, oh wow, what a wonderful sight. So be a bit more sympathetic towards its calls during the night. But hey, such a beautiful species, and there are innumerable such species that are beautiful in India. We've done research to find that we have a kind of a fungus that is impacting amphibians in India. We found more than 12 species that are native to the Western Ghats that are impacted by a chytrid fungus, which, by the way, that fungus is a reason why more than 350 species of frogs have gone extinct around the world. Okay? And that is because of increased pressures, environmental pressures on the frogs that has helped the fungus establish itself. In India, we have the same fungus. 12 species have been identified. But fortunately, they have not yet impacted any of them negatively. But we don't want to lose out, because if we lose any species, we lose out all the medical values of those species. One such species that was under research in Costa Rica for finding cure for cancer is no longer there. It's gone extinct because of that fungus and because of human impacts. Why that fungus went there in the first place. So we need species for better health and for food security. How can we survive? Much of the world survives on fish for food. Okay? So we need to have species that help us better ourselves in terms of how we can sustain ourselves. Water security, of course. We're talking of unseasonal rains, we're talking of floods, we're talking of erosion. All these are either causes or effects of the climate crisis and because of loss of natural vegetation. So plants also help with water security. I'd like to go into the details of each one of these, but I'm skipping a lot of them because the reason is that I want to get into some of the important things that I'd like to get out here in this forum. Climate crisis, of course. Species contribute to fighting the climate crisis. You're talking of afforestation. You're talking of species. You're talking of getting more cyanobacteria out there in the wild. It's species. Do you know that about 500, 600 million years back, it is the single-celled cyanobacterium that helped increase the Earth's oxygen from 3% to 36%. And that is what kick-started evolution. Okay. And today, we are losing out on a lot of cyanobacteria that we find in the oceans. Oceans contribute to carbon sequestration. Oceans contribute to producing more oxygen. We need to be aware of oceans as much as we are aware of our terrestrial ecosystems today. Okay, so where do we go beyond sustainability? We need to actually go beyond sustainability. First of all, having understood what we each other mean by sustainability, and I defined it by saying how we use the natural resources. So sustainability for me, and hopefully it is for everyone, has the same definition, because that is what sustainability is about. It is not how sustainable my wallet gets over the next 1 year. Okay? So we are into recycling. We've got reusing, rewilding, reforesting, regenerating, restoring, a lot of re's, a lot of ups. Okay? Is this enough? I'll give you one example of how startups or people can get carried away by these things without basic understanding of what goes behind them in terms of how species behave. To give you a simple example, the lakes in Bangalore have been restored. Many of them have been restored, are in the process of being restored. Lack of knowledge has led to very good meaning, well-meaning citizens to build nice walking ramps, beautiful architectural facilities around the lakes, but the lakes themselves are dead, are ecologically dead, and stink. Still people walk around them. Not only that, if you see one of the lakes in Bangalore, this is a site of the African catfish. All the different native species of fish are gone from that lake. It's only the introduced invasive African catfish that is taken over. To the extent that no water bird visits that lake. The lake stinks to high heavens. People still walk around like as though there's nothing's happening. But the lake is dead, ecologically dead. And you don't want an ecologically dead lake because eventually everything else dies around it. You find a meter-long African catfishes eating up water birds that visit. So it's the other way around now. So well-meaning startups, well-meaning citizen efforts should have some background in biodiversity. So we need to have some remorse, understand that, hey, okay, maybe what we did was wrong. It's not too late. Understanding that we were wrong can only help us move forward. We can rethink, we can redesign, we can restart, redo things, and therefore return to what it was naturally. It's not too late. Our lakes in Coimbatore, not too late. We can still bring them back to life ecologically, and we need to. And if anybody is interested in that, we can help you with finding, sourcing native fish. Okay, so sustainability needs to be holistic. Okay, I've taken a quote from, all of you are familiar with Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Yeah? So holistic ideas require holistic scientific backing. If you are into startups, I presume you would be doing it holistically, and to do it holistically, you need scientific backing. So, what can we bring to this table here, to this forum? And this is what we do. 30 years of not finding us. Why? Because we were working in the background. We have built a wealth of scientific knowledge, information that's out there for you to use. Okay? So this is what we do. For the last 5 years, we are putting ourselves out. A few of you have heard of us. Hopefully, many of you will start contacting us so that we can help you with finding that holistic transformation that you would like to make for a sustainable cause. So, we need to be environmentally and ecologically conscious in our development. Okay? So I've got a very slightly modified Einstein's equation there for ease of understanding. D equals E squared C. E squared standing for environmentally and ecologically conscious. Okay? So keep that in mind when you become an entrepreneur, when you start a startup, or if you already have a company, if you want to go back and look at it. So it's like a Mobius strip. You know, we all know about the Mobius strip, you know, circling onto itself, and it's a never-ending loop. Yeah? So biodiversity and development should go hand in hand and should never ever be apart. Should never ever be two sides of a strip. They should be on the same side all the time, cycling into each other. Okay, so what we provide? We help companies, entrepreneurs, public authorities to reduce their negative impacts on biodiversity and on the environment. Okay? We help provide the information, the scientific inputs to help startups with the E2C concept. It's never too late. If you're already a company, go back to point one. We help companies that have already established. Never too late to incorporate this. We want to retain integrity of business and the core objective. Yes, we all would. Why do we set up a startup? We have our various motivations. Much of it is perhaps to have a good living, to earn more money, to have peace of mind, everything else. But that objective needs to be retained for the long term. It cannot wither away because the environment is withering away. So we need to be responsible for that. And we will help you do that. Establish a solid foundation for long-term holistic benefit. Okay, be it for individuals, social, or at the planetary level. Okay? So this is something that my team, I'll request them to stand up, and I will be happy to talk to you more about. How many of you have heard of Sustainable Development Goals? The UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Do our startups fit in any one of these goals? There are 17 goals. Fitting any one goal is not enough. You have to fit all 17 goals, by the way. The sustainable goals are just ways of identifying, of understanding what makes it holistic and ways of addressing each one of them. So many of us are proud of meeting goal number 3, goal number 5 or 7. Good. Now we have to move on to other goals. Make sure that you move on to meeting all the 17 goals, because that's when it is holistic. Okay. That's why we are here. If you want to know more, please contact me.
Thank you so much. In Hindi, there is this saying that says, Beta ghar mein, datora share mein, right? You have someone sitting at home and you're searching for that person all around the world. So we have such wonderful organizations. The NBNP, which is in Anakati, was built by Sanjay's team. So we are really honored and proud that you are from our city. And I'm sure a lot of the startups and the companies will reach out to you going forward in this remorseful, rethinking, returning journey as well. Thank you so much, Sanjay. And I'm sure Sanjay will be around and that his team is around. Please do reach out to them. And it was a different perspective, right? Looking at animals and species to look at the whole sustainability context. So thank you so much, Sanjay.
Thank you very much. If you have questions, I'm always available. All of us are available. And you're most welcome to visit our office anytime you want. We are moving from Saranampatti to Ganapati. So, sorry? Nilgiri Biosphere Nature Park. It is in Anekati. Yeah.
So now the only two biosphere reserves with only native trees. Is that right? Or native trees mostly?
Yes. It's one of the two botanical gardens anywhere in the world that has more than 90% native trees. And there are more than 285 species of trees that are native to the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Okay. You'll find nowhere else. Mind you, it was 250 acres of absolutely barren land. Today you find 70 acres of well-forested, well-wooded, restored area. And we're trying to expand it. And it's thanks to the industrialists of Coimbatore. We are their technical advisors. But they set it up, started it about 30 years back. And when I joined in '93, one of the first things I did was help with digging the pits to experiment on planting. We went through a fantastic phase of understanding how easily plants die if you don't take care of them. Or even if you take care of them, how easily they can die. So reforestation is not just about planting. It's not just about watering. It is a whole different ballgame. And especially when it comes to native species, it's a ballgame plus one. But it gives you the most fruitful advantage at the end of the project. And the project, of course, never ends.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. When you try to get speakers who are super duper stars, there's always one small risk that you carry. Everyone wants the stars. Today it so happened that the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, wanted one of our stars, and our last speaker could not make it because he's right now with the Prime Minister of India. Ankit Agarwal from Full, who was supposed to fly down, is at the PMO right now as we speak. So we will get him next time, and we will probably do an event, and we will force him to get Narendra Modi also.